Moonbeam launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Moonbeam Radio, the number one source for breaking news, current events, and social commentary. I'm your host, Jay Daniel. This is episode S321. Stakes is high. Thank you for your time and attention. Your ear gates, eye gates, and heart gate, you are appreciated. Now, if you're new to the show, welcome. And if you're a longtime supporter, welcome back. Now, this week we'll discuss the Boulder shooting, Georgia voting, migrant conditions, clever move, trans ban, college testing, and sundown towns. This portion of our broadcast is brought to you in part by Junemoonmeadia Group, custom DJ services including personalized mixes and virtual hostings for all occasions. Pricing deals going on now. For all inquiries, email us at junemoonmediagroup@gmail.com. So you can follow me on Instagram at Moonbeam Radio or on Facebook at J Daniel. That would be J-A-Y Daniel. Please like and share this video. Give it the thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you do not miss anything. Stakes is high. Source here is usatoday.com. So we got to talk about it. The Boulder, Colorado shooting. Ahmad Al-Awali Elisa, right? He's 21 years old, resident of Arvada, Colorado. He faces 10 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder. He's being held without bail pending a mental health assessment. Now, I'm sure if you have TV, internet, you heard about the shooting, you feel a way about it. Well, I do too. Now, authorities are investigating. This is what they're into. Why this man drove 20 miles from his house to kill 10 people at the supermarket. A motive hasn't been concluded. That's what the police are worried about. Why? He killed 10 people. I don't care why. Mass shooter, white. That's motive enough. People do things because the consequences are not strong enough, or the consequences aren't enough of a deterrent. Period. Here's what the police are saying, right? Like the rest of the community, we too want to know why. Why the King Supers? Why Boulder? Why Monday? This is Boulder Police Chief Maris Harold said in a press conference. The community is asking why? I believe that the community don't care. Why? We know we care about what? 10 folks are gone. Why are they gone? 21-year-old man killed them. That's all the why we need. It'll be something haunting for us, for all of us, until we figure that out. Sometimes you just don't figure things out. But I'm hoping that we will. That's what they care about. Why? And then this man was the shooter. They bring him out. He's bleeding. He took one to the leg or something like that. He's bleeding. And then there's reports that they allowed him to call his mother. Would you allow if he was a black shooter? to call his mother or go to Wendy's or, excuse me, Popeye's chicken first? Let me go there. No. Would he even make it to the car? Make it out the building? We know he wouldn't. You saw what they did to the DC sniper. Now, police have confirmed the weapons that were used. A semi-automatic Ruger AR-556 pistol. Now, this pistol, this Ruger, right, was legally purchased from a gun store in the guy's hometown days prior to this shooting. Now, this gun looks and operates like a rifle, but it's smaller, more compact, and easily concealable. So that's why he chose that. We don't need to know why that. That's self-explanatory. When you look at what this gun looks like, yeah. In and out easy mode, yeah. And he's had all the training on it from probably the gun range near his home, probably out back his house, and Call of Duty. Let's keep it real. They also found a 9mm handgun. They recovered that. Now, this shooting has stirred up gun control debates as well. Bump stocks and filibusters. There was, in the 90s, right? There was this song, Stakes is High. That was also the name of the album by this group, De La Soul. You ever heard of them? Well, in this song, one of the bars from the rapper Pasta Noose says, gun control means using both hands in my land. Yes. That's in the black community, that's gun control. In the white community, there is no gun control. Gun control is killing 10 people. Because compared to other mass shootings, this was light, right? There have been 114 mass shootings in the last 20 years. Think about that. I'm going to say it again. There have been 114 mass shootings in the last 20 years. 1,300 people have been killed in mass shootings since Columbine, and that was in 1999. You remember Columbine? Trench coat mafia, right? Why does it take another shooting to discuss gun laws? Riddle me that. Congress, the Senate, the executive branch, the executive suite. Do you really care? I don't think you do. And stop it with it's the guns and no. I get it. What do you need an AR-15 or a Ruger like this guy had? What do you need that for? Why is it available? Why is it available? There's things you can do, simple things like more extensive background checks. And it needs to be universal because, again, if a black man wants a gun, he got to give blood, bodily fluids, employment history, credit history, jail record, right? How much he's paying on car insurance, all kind of stuff that got nothing to do with nothing. And then still get denied. But we got 21-year-old mass shooter white boy buys one, no problem. It's not universal. It needs to be. But there's your white privilege also in this country. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the blind eye to it. Oh, nobody knows what we're talking about. No one wants to own up to it. And where is the Stop White Death hashtag? Where's that? We're quick to throw out Stop Asian Hate, Black Lives Matter. No, when do we put out hashtag Stop White Supremacy, Stop White Death? I haven't seen it. That's not trending on Twitter. It's not on social media. White shooters. That's where we are. That's the truth. And they already given him an out. Mental health. He's being held, denied bail, pending a mental health evaluation. So you know what that means? Oh, he's unfit to stand trial. Send him to Greystone or whatever, the asylum is for a reduced sentence and get off. It's already, the groundwork is laid, especially when you got law enforcement just want to know why. Here's a thing. Have you asked him? He told you all his other stuff. Did you ask him why? But who cares about why? Care about what? What happened? 10 people are dead because this guy wanted to. Because he could. He knew he would do it, get away with it, and have his life. Because they didn't shoot him. Well, they did, but it wasn't shoot to kill like they do at a black traffic stop. I'm disgusted. The country is failing its people. Every corner you turn, this is what you're seeing. I have no faith in law enforcement and no faith in the government. Talking about help is here tour. Well, where? For who? Help for who? Because it surely ain't for me or anybody that looks like me. Source here is NBCnews.com. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp signed into law an overhaul of the state elections that includes new restrictions on voting by mail and gives the legislature greater control over how elections are run. Now, this law requires a photo ID in order to vote absentee by mail. Mind you, more than 1.3 million, I'm going to say that again, more than 1.3 million Georgia voters used voting by mail during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, it also cuts the time people have to request an absentee ballot and limits where ballot drop boxes can be placed and when they can be accessed. Now, this has been a Republican thing. Not that I subscribe to any of that, but you have Democrats and voting rights groups say that the law will disproportionately disenfranchise voters of color. There's that thing again, people of color. I don't agree with that, but we're going to continue on, right? What they're saying is going to make it harder for black people to vote. Democrats, right? And this is the truth. It will. I believe that's how it's designed. Now, it is part of a wave of election bills introduced in states around the nation after 4-5, Donald Trump. You remember 4-5. Now, this is after he makes these false claims of fraud that led to his, demise and embarrassing loss to Joe Biden. President Biden called the Georgia legislation, this is what he says, outrageous and an atrocity. He urges Congress to move quickly to change and overhaul and review this voting rights across the nation in response. It's an atrocity. They passed a law saying you can't provide water for people standing in line while they're waiting to vote. You don't need anything else to know that this is nothing but punitive, designed to keep people from voting. Well put, 46. I agree with you. So you can't get water online. You can't get food, right? That's a violation against the rules, against the law now. Do we value democracy? And if you break that word down, it means mob rule. So do we value the mob rule? Well, John Gotti, right? The mob, the different kind of mob, but democracy, the most crazy, right? Why are they doing that? Just answer, think about that to yourself. Why would you make it more stringent to vote? Now, on one hand, requiring a photo ID to be able to vote, well, they do that at the polls now. Maybe it's not universal. It should be. But when I've had to vote, I've had to prove it's me. Not every time, but it needs to be every time. So I get that. But come on, water and food in a line, waiting, especially with these COVID restrictions that have been going on, taking you 4 and 5 hours to vote. Come on. It's ridiculous. Furthering the divide between Democrats and Republicans, which don't need to be. They're two sides of the same coin. Left wing, right wing. Of what? The same bird. You need to cut it out. But you're changing laws like this, fine. But they didn't get a census of the people. They didn't do a poll to find out if the people want this. And this is in Georgia. How soon will it migrate to another state? You know, and then they're changing voting laws as well. Who does this stand to benefit? The candidates, the system, or the republic, the people? That's the question. Will we ever get the answer? And how soon or how late? What's the time frame of that? But I assure you that there will be more changes like this. And if they can do this without consulting you, finding your opinion, what else can they do? Or what else have they been doing? Why tell us? It's prep work. They're letting us know how it's going to go, and it's a conditioning for more things to come. But this is major. I mean, you can't get water? That's very petty. But that falls right in line with Republican thinking and their actions. Most recently, we had 4-5. He let you know what it was. Source here, npr.org. Now, there's been a surge in migrants coming to the U.S. from Central America. You know this. U.S. Customs and Border Protection released photos and video of the South Texas immigrant processing centers. Now, President Biden is being criticized heavy for this continued poor conditions despite promises to fix problems. Now, the photos were released because President Biden, his administration, had refused media access to the facility in Donna, Texas. Oh, salute to the folks out there in Richardson, Texas. Good folks. I have some listeners out there. So salute to you in Richardson, Texas. Now, these pods that are shown in the pictures, right, and on video, these pods are meant to hold approximately 260 individuals, but they're housing closer to 400 individuals, mostly unaccompanied male minors, right? Now, the pictures also show migrants undergoing processing and living conditions, such as rows of these migrants sleeping on mattresses on the ground, covered in emergency blankets. Others are showing everybody, minors and families in line to receive food, their meals, right? Now, they're illegal. And they're coming to a foreign country for them. It's foreign. America is foreign for them. And we are so concerned. There's a big uproar about this, these conditions, inhumane. How can you do this to people? But they're illegal. Coming here illegally, knowing that you're not going to turn them away. Can I go and hop the fence and go to Mexico? How long will it be before I get shot? You can't do that in France, right? No, they're not taking care of you. You trying to sneak in our country? My point is, America, it's probably happened in your family too, right? Let's just go there. Anytime you can treat an outsider or a stranger better than the people that live in your house, something's twisted there, something's broken. Priorities are imbalanced. We have a serious homelessness problem in this country. Planetary, but we got to keep it, clean up your backyard, right? Serious issue with housing in this country. Yet and still, all these officials and these gurus in these suits, well, not suits with masks now, right, are talking about these migrants. When are we going to address a real issue that concerns the people of this nation? Oh, it's inhumane and it's supposed to be look at the prison system. You're not worried about overcrowding the prison system. You're not worried about overcrowding school system. But the migrants, we can't have them on top of each other. We just can't do it. Please. Priorities. That's real. That's nice. Flip-flop season. Yeah. Because they flipping and flopping all over the place. It ain't cool. What message are you sending? The duality there. The disrespect there. Let me say this. If people want to flee their country and leave for a prospective better life in this country or any other country, that's their choice. Do it legally, though. Don't just bully your way or take the back door to do it. There are lines of communication. There's lines to citizenship. Take that route. But they're not doing that. And that's the problem. They're just dropping people off. And they're paying money to get across, what do they call them, the gorillas, to bring them across the the water. Now, you did have a death. A 9-year-old died. And I'm sad for her death. But mama put her on that boat. Mama did that. We need to do a better job of taking care of home. Stakes are too high. We need to do that. And I'm not going to rest. I'm not going to leave it alone. Homelessness is terrible. We don't talk about it. Needs to be addressed and solved in America, and then let that migrate to the planet. Source here is NBCSports.com. Now, there's a former Seattle Seahawk offensive lineman, Russell Okung, black man. He has been in the league for 11 years now. Now, back in December, Okung decided that he wanted half of his $13 million contract for 2020. He wanted it in Bitcoin. Now, he tweeted, "Pay me in Bitcoin." And he was paid in Bitcoin. Now, he said, money is more than currency. It's power. That's what he said in a statement. The way money is handled from creation to dissemination is part of that power. Getting paid in Bitcoin is the first step of opting out of the corrupt, manipulated economy we all inhabit. End quote. Now, I applaud this young man, this young black man, for being innovative and looking for a new way. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't really know the ins and outs of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular here. What I do know is it still takes regular currency, paper currency, to convert that and buy Bitcoin equivalencies, right? And then that bounces around on the market, ebbs and flows, ups and downs, just like the regular NASDAQ, all that, right? The stock market exchange. And so when you cash out, you're still putting it back into converting it back to paper money. It's a little dicey for me because you still need paper money to get in. When they figure out a way or figure out how it works that they're going to be able to, I can get Bitcoin or cryptocurrency without paper currency, paper money, you got something sustainable there. But kudos to Russell Okung. Salute to him. He has actually turned his $13 million into about $22 million, reports, according to reports. So that's quite the flip, quite the increase, right? And it may be he may have started a trend. I don't know. Well, it remains to be seen. But what do you think about that? Do you think that this will catch on? You know, I'm checking the stream. Pardon me. So our source here is CNN.com. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed a transgender sports bill into law that requires students to prove their sex at birth in order to play in middle and high school sports. Yeah, he's going there. Now, this bill states that a student's gender for purposes of participation in a public middle school or high school interscholastic athletic activity or event be determined by the student's sex at the time of the student's birth, as indicated on the student's original birth certificate. You laid it out, he ain't cut no corners, he going straight down the middle. That's the verbiage in the bill. Now, students must show proof of their sex at the time of birth if their birth certificate does not appear to be the original or does not indicate the student's sex at the time of birth. This does not apply to students in kindergarten through fourth grade. This is what the Tennessee bill says. I signed the bill to preserve women's athletics and ensure fair competition. This is what Lee tweeted. This legislation responds to damaging federal policies that stand in opposition to the years of progress made under the Title IX, and I commend members of the General Assembly for their bipartisan work. That's what Lee said. Now, Arkansas and Mississippi have also signed similar bills, the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. Now, this has kicked up another storm of sorts. There's pushback. About this. You have Alfonso David, president of the Human Rights Campaign. He chimes in with this. The bill legislates against a problem that simply does not exist. Targets transgender kids who are trying to navigate their adolescence, is what David said. Transgender kids are kids. Excluding and discriminating against them does great harm to them, and it weakens the communities in which these children feel excluded and marginalized. Let me say this. If you are a trans woman, meaning a man transitioning to being a woman, but you are pre-opt in that decision, yeah, I agree that you should not be allowed to participate in women's sports until that transition has happened. Because you still would be biologically a man competing in a women's sports. Whatever the sport is, you have an advantage. Because that's what this is addressing. Because the guys aren't worried, men aren't worried about a trans man, meaning a woman transitioning to a man. They're not worried about her having an advantage or, at that point, that individual. Because they wouldn't. When we're talking about sports and strength and the physique and the genetic makeup of men and women. So yeah, until you have the op and you fully transition over, yeah, I agree. You shouldn't be able to participate in a female sport if you're not biologically a female, anatomically a female. It seems, though, to push a little further, I don't know the ramifications of at birth, right? That works now with my theory of how you could move forward until you have the operation, right, or the transition fully. What happens after that, though? Once that transition is complete? Are you, according to this bill, it's worded weirdly. It just addresses the pre. It doesn't address the post. But folks are upset and sensitive about it. But we have to come together so that we can understand this, but also be fair about it. Not lean to one side or the other. No advantages. Just everybody, cards on the table. You know what you're dealing with. and you can move forward. That's it. Source here is InsideHigherED.com. Now, more than 1,000 colleges have made the SAT and the ACT tests optional. The University of California decided to suspend use of standardized test scores in evaluating applicants. Did you know that? Most students were not able to sit for the exams this spring and summer because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as a result, almost every college is test optional for this fall's admissions season. Now, the elimination of the standardized test as a requirement for college admission has many factors. We'll talk about them. The intent of standardized tests may seem sensible. Students from all over the country take the same test at the same time. Those who score the highest are the best. Well, we know in reality, the tests are very biased, they're strongly biased, and they're in favor of wealthy white test takers. And they are poor predictors of college success. Let's just call it what it is. The tests have given colleges a pseudo-scientific cover for weeding out students they didn't want to enroll anyway. Now, the use of the SAT scores as gatekeeper has always been shady. We know this, you feel this, you may have experienced it yourself. But colleges brag about test scores of their admitted students and imply that applicants never had a chance unless they got at least a minimum score near the very top. But that is just simply not true. If the most selective colleges only admitted students with the highest SAT scores, more than half of the students now attending them would have to leave. That is because these colleges turn aside promising students with high scores in favor of low-scoring athletes, legacy students, and wealthy students who can afford to pay full tuition. Facts. Keep it 100. You can put the ball in the hole, we'll get you on, right? Dad and your grandfather gave this money to build the dining hall or the dorms, yeah, you're in. Pay to play is how it really goes down. But to do away with standardized tests, that sounds hot, that sounds progressive, but you still need a qualifier for admission to this school, this institution. There still needs to be a way to gauge what student you're getting and also an identifier to the student of what they're in for as well. Because college is for everybody, but everybody's not for college. I'm one of them. I've attended colleges many times, and just that classroom kind of setting and sitting there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, a class, and several times a week, and you got to do that for 4 or 5 years, wasn't for me. So I didn't know that till I got in it. It's not the work. It's sitting here and learning things that don't interest me. That's what happens in college. Some people can flourish in that environment. But you need a way to gauge and know that before you get into it and sign these contracts, right? These letters of intent, these applications, when you pay money, wouldn't you want to know what you're getting yourself into before you go that route and go all the way? So they have to figure that out. How they're going to gauge the capacity in which the students they're receiving. They'll work it out, but on the surface, right now, doing away or suspending standardized testing, it looks good. It feels good for now, but they have to work out the legalities and the full picture, the full scope of it, how it's going to go. Source here is blackpast.org. Got to talk about it. Sundown towns. You've heard of that before, right? Sundown towns. Well, if you haven't, sundown towns are all white communities, neighborhoods, or counties that exclude blacks through the use of discriminatory laws, harassment, and threats, or use of violence. Now, to signify a sundown town, signs were posted and verbal warnings issued to blacks that although they might be allowed to work there or travel in the community during the daytime, they must leave by sundown. Historians are now including other minority groups such as Jews, Native Americans, the Chinese, Japanese, right? But we know the term refers to the forced exclusion of blacks. Just call it what it is. Everybody wants to jump in later. No, we're talking about black people in a sundown town. Yes. It's estimated that there were up to 10,000 sundown towns in the United States between 1890 and 1960, mostly in the Midwest and the West. They began during the Great Migration, starting in 1910, when large numbers of African Americans left the South to escape racism and poverty. As blacks began to migrate to other regions of the country, many predominantly white communities actively discouraged them from settling there. Sounds a lot like today's gentrification model, right? Now, sundown town, it makes me think about, reminds me, there's a Bible verse, right? Ephesians 4:26. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. Now, that's fitting and very telling because when you look throughout American history, this is a Christian nation, right? And that would be where a sundown town came from. You twist up the meaning of the verse to fit what you really want to do, is discriminate and be racist, right? Be biased. So we'll twist the verse to fit the situation. And it happened throughout history. Pastors do it. There's 80 pastors today that did it. They get you to give, right? More money than you have. But this is a Christian nation, the roots of it. And even back when slavery was a thing, right? Was out here. That was the religion that was pushed onto the slaves, Christianity, and given this book. And this is one of the things that were in the book. And the Bible enforced oppression, saying that slavery was okay, and had you worship a white Jesus. So that's, to keep keep the slaves at bay. But I digress. Now, the means to announce and enforce racial restrictions varied across the country. Now, the most blatant form were signs posted at the city limits. For instance, in Arkansas, a sign would look something like this, or I should say sound something like this. Nigger, don't let the sun go down on you and Alex, right? Alex, Arkansas. Whites only after dark. You get the picture? Now, many sundown towns use housing campaigns to ensure no non-white person would be allowed to purchase or rent a home. In the 1940s, Edmond, Oklahoma promoted itself on postcards with this slogan: a good place to live, no Negroes. Now, there's a town of Mena, Arkansas advertised cool summers, mild winters, no blizzards, and no Negroes. Now, the policy was enforced through less formal norms and sanctions. You have businesses that served black customers or hired black employees would be boycotted by the white townspeople. This would be ensuring that blacks had few job opportunities in those communities. There are still sundown towns, unofficially, officially, throughout this country. It's not a thing that has gone away. Just like they say slavery was abolished, right? But then you had Jim Crow. So it was just a more covert slavery. There's more covert sundown towns. But they definitely are there. You have less of them in the north. But in the south, there are places in Georgia, Florida, Texas, Arkansas, right? That's the west. That I ought not be there when the sun goes down. Have you experienced a sundown moment? I hope not. But if you're black and you are a certain age, you have. My grandmother was Alabama. Yeah, she's experienced that. It's a real thing. But America, this is American history. This is still going on. Lynchings. And I love how historians are throwing in these other groups, Jews and the Asians. There's no sundown town for you, where you out past a certain hour time, you can be killed and they get away with it. Stop it. This is black history. This is American history. This is the present also. Fix it. See, if you don't address the race issue, we're not going to get anywhere. Nothing's going to change. And that's been the problem. That's why we have what we have. They don't want to address it. It's happening. But sundown towns, black people would be killed, hung, barbecued, all for public consumption, just because they were black and the sun went down. Think about that. It's heavy business. Ahmad Alyssa faces 10 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder. All authorities seem to care about is the motive, while the public is more fearful of another white mass shooting. Voting laws in Georgia have been changed. Photo ID is required to vote by mail. Does America believe in democracy or in a restrictive, controlled republic? Photos and video of the border have been released. Biden's getting blamed. How can we care more for illegal migrants and not care for our homeless? The same energy needs to be applied. NFL veteran Russell Okung has been paid in Bitcoin. Now considered the highest paid player in the league. Is this the new wave for contracts and compensation? Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi are requiring students to prove their sex at birth in order to play in middle school and high school sports. Is this a case of healthy boundaries in society or gender-biased bullying? Colleges have made the SAT An ACT test optional. Is this a good idea or recipe for a mediocre graduating class? Sundown towns are all white communities that exclude blacks through the use of laws, harassment, and violence. An estimated 10,000 sundown towns in the United States between 1890 and 1960. These towns still exist in 2021. Racism is the only invention that the white man won't take credit for. If you would like to be a sponsor for the broadcast, send us an email at junemoonmediagroup@gmail.com. For all your streetwear apparel and sneakers, check out GMK Young Bowler on Instagram. I'm Jay Daniel. This has been Moonbeam Radio. I'll see you next week. Take care.